Hello, Cardiff Animation Festival 2026. In my head, I almost said 2016. That's 10 years ago. That is not now, my dude. Hello, my name is Jamie, and Cardiff Animation Festival very kindly asked me to put on a workshop. This is a little bit experimental. The idea behind it is sort of based on some things that I've been doing for myself to just get a little bit more grounded with, taking the pressure off of creating and just being more intuitive with things. So yeah, this is a workshop about intuitive mark making to sound and music. I don't know about you, but I've done art professionally for a long time, and when things get wrapped up in being a career, I found that I lost a bit of connection with making marks or drawing for the sake of feeling things. Well, hopefully by the end of this, you'll have had a chance to work with this technique and see if it works for you. I'm hoping that it'll help sort of ground you in being present in feeling physical materials again, and just taking the pressure off of creating and making anything good. It's expression for the sake of expression, and it's sort of giving you an anchor to be able to do it easily, or almost like a meditative technique in a way. But quickly about me, who am I? So hey, my name's Jamie. I've been doing art and animation and stuff like that for quite a long time. I graduated in 2015, did a lot of animation work in London, worked on some cool things, and then I kind of quit that to do YouTube, and I did illustrated story time stuff. Interesting career. It's been a bit all over the place. But yeah, one thing I have noticed in all my time of creation is that things went digital, the undo button being right there. For me, it was just, so easy to undo things, and in a bit of a state of doubt that mark making and drawing could be quite stressful at times. There was also this anxiety that I felt sometimes of just starting anything. I also have a thing called aphantasia, so I can't consciously visualize, so I just be stuck with a blank page, not having any ideas up here or imagination up here, and just being I could do literally anything, and ending up doing nothing. And also just thinking about the world in the state it is, and with AI, and I think a lot of people are wanting to return to a sense of reality, a rawness. This is about coming back to feeling and being really present, actually taking some time out to spend with yourself, exploring things, sitting with yourself, exploring how does this make me feel. This could be a nice method for when you're stuck in a state of I just need to start something. It's just getting some stuff out of the system. But it could also be a really nice practice as a form of meditation. I've been certainly trying to work out my relationship with meditation. Is so good for us, but not the same techniques won't work for everybody. For me, I like a lot of motion and movement and energy. I find it difficult to sit still a lot of the time unless I'm lying down, which isn't a great place to draw from. So that's all kind of tied into the idea behind this. And it's just nice to just give yourself permission to scribble, And there are no goals, really. There's no outcomes, but you might at the end of this feel oh, I like that, by tuning in, by sort of drowning out everything else and just being so into listening and moving your hand and letting the sound dictate where your hand goes or what textures you use. But what you might find at the end of it is that you're ooh, I like how that ink bled into that ink, or I really like how that pencil felt when I really went for it. You might find that naturally things come up where you're ooh, I like that. You might also find that things come up where you're oh, I don't like that, or that felt weird. But I would say, if you haven't drawn in a while, or you do get anxious about these kinds of things, if anything comes up where you're oh, this is bad, oh, I don't like it, just try and acknowledge those feelings and remind yourself that we're just scribbling here. There's no goals, there's no desired outcomes. This is just scribbling for the sake of getting it out of your system. All right, if that all sounds good, let's talk about the plan. Because this workshop is rooted in listening to music, if we were doing this in person, it would be great. I could just play music on a speaker and we could all sit down and tune in and zone in and then reflect on stuff at the end. But because we're not doing that, and this is digital and this is online, basically I've put together a playlist, and this is generally atmospheric instrumental music. We've got some game stuff in here, we've got some animated film score stuff, and some other little things that I like. Now, of course, music is completely subjective. So I'd say for ease of, if you want minimum amount of like extra work to do, put on this playlist that I've put. I think it's generally, I don't think there's anything on there people are gonna hate, but you might not like some of it, and that's okay. That could be something that's cool to reflect on when you're drawing. You'd be like, oh, well, I made this mark because I don't like this, and it made me feel this way. That can be interesting. However, if you're the kind of person who you like to listen to your own music, that's absolutely fine. So you could put together, I'd say like 2 or 3 songs, 2 or 3 tracks, or you can just put on whatever you want, honestly. I find that constraints help drive creativity, so follow along with my playlist. I'm gonna be able to play that out loud so you can follow along, and we're gonna have a little reflection session at the end. I'll reflect on my piece, and maybe you can bounce some of like what you were feeling and reflect on what I was doing, and I don't know, get some ideas together. And of course, please do leave a comment. Hello, Editing Jamie here. I just checked in with Cardiff Animation Festival because I wasn't sure whether this was going to go on YouTube or a private thing, but will be a Google Drive link in the event bio, so you can upload the artwork you create if you want to share it, but also you can share with Cardiff Animation Festival by tagging them on Instagram. It is at Cardiff Annie Fest. So yeah, if you want to share some feedback or share what you've made, if it was interesting, let us know. Get a discussion going of like how you feel doing these kinds of things, whether you start doing it and it feels kind of closed off to you. You might find that you open up a bit more, things get easier. You might find that this is very therapeutic. You might not like it at all, but hey, we're here to feel things, and it's nice to get physical again and get a bit messy, give ourselves permission to play. This is like sacred playtime, So with that being said, we're going to talk about now materials and setting. So hopefully by the end of this, you might be able to do this on the go. But I would say for this first one, maybe it could be cool to like book yourself like an hour in an evening sometime where you've got some proper quiet time to yourself to get yourself cozy and comfortable, and you've got that private time, that booked off time to just be like, I am in the zone here. I'm going to be jumping about a little bit in this video because I tried out doing this in different settings, but of course you can do what you want. You can just do a little bit, you could do the whole length. What I would say is I would highly recommend material-wise. Again, I'm going to say an emphasis on going physical. Digital can be so easy to like second guess yourself, and it's almost like there are too many options. So I think limiting yourself is really useful here. And also, we're getting in touch with like how things feel on a page. This isn't just about making marks and being like, ooh, I like that shape. It's about, how does this pen feel? What if I hold it this way? It's like tuning into that very physical reality. So I would say, yes, do this physically. You don't need, supplies-wise, you don't need any fancy supplies, I promise you. So I would say if you can, work big. If you've got a big sketchbook, like that sized, double page spread, that would be great. I think having a lot of like work surface area would be really good. If not, an A4, or if you're one of those people like me sometimes where you're like, I've only got fancy sketchbooks and I feel like this is like not worthy of, like my scribbles aren't worthy of this lovely thick GSM paper. Well, we know that's a load of nonsense. We should just make stuff. But if you are like that, make this as low like bar of entry as possible. Literally, you could get some scrap paper and like, this is just packaging paper. Draw on that. Like, emphasis on, we're just feeling this out. It is so low stakes. So of the tools to actually make the marks with, honestly, I have just literally grabbed whatever markers and colors I've had hanging about for quite a while. My friend gave me, actually, whilst I was doing my animation degree, I think these are from like 2013. These are old. So yeah, if you haven't got loads of colored markers, don't worry. I'd say just grab some things with like contrast. So I'd say, that could be a pencil, a pen, and a crayon. It could be a really thick marker, a medium marker, and a skinny pen or a skinny marker. So when we go through each track, I may give you an optional like prompt that you could follow to help like make it a little bit more specific. But again, you don't have to do that. You can just do what you want. We're just picking what feels intuitive to us as well. I hope that all makes sense. Shall we start? All right, I hope you've made yourself comfortable, that you've got a pile of supplies around you. I'm going to give a suggestion for this one since we're warming up if you want a little bit more direction, if you want a bit more of an anchor. So there are 3 tracks, and I picked a light color, a mid color, and a dark. First track, choose the light color and sort of try and tune into what feels light to you or what like resembles that color in the music. And then the second track, go in with the midtones. They could be separate shapes, they could be enhancing it, but you're just using that middle tone. And same with the third track, then it'll be using the dark colors of how you're gonna accent things, how you're gonna frame things. However you use that dark color, maybe you're tuning into the same thing in the track. Maybe you're tuning into what feels like that color in the track, or most like that color. So I'm about to play the first track. You can listen in. And if you need to pause at any point and go back a bit, sometimes it takes me a while to like settle into a song. Like I want to listen to it for like, 20 seconds or something just to get the vibe and then go back. You can do that. There are no strict rules here. You do what you feel like. But it's nice to be able to like get into a mode where you're kind of more reacting to it. But I get needing to warm up into it. So I'll give you a few seconds between songs to just recalibrate, and we'll go again until the third one is done. So after 3, 1, 2, 3. All right. You might want to swap over to your mid color because the second track is coming in 3, 2, 1. Your dark pen on this one. The final track is coming in 3, 2, 1. Okay, review time. I guess I would describe that music as like atmospheric, a bit of fantasy. It also feels like quite organic. Maybe it's also because I know where this track comes from that's influenced this, so I'd be interested to see where your brain went to. These tracks are from a game called Star Stable. It's an online horse MMO, and it has the most delightful music throughout it. This feels like organic matter, where I was just like letting the curves, because it was like quite slow, and it was like leading me, or like a river format, and it's just things like relating back to nature. And then when the second track came in, I just felt like I wanted to add a bit of dimension to the lighter color that was already there. I don't really gravitate to this color very much because it seems quite swampy in a way, and I don't know why I thought that's a bad thing, because I was coloring with it and I was like, oh, this is really satisfying to paint with. And it was almost like, even though I'd carved out those lighter shapes that were the river, it felt like I was making it flow with the darker color, and some bits felt more turbulent, whereas others felt more trouble-free waters and there's glistening sunshine on it. But then also it like reminded me of like seaweed. It felt like I was painting with it, but as I was drawing with it, I was like, oh, this feels like really like satisfying, like seaweedy like shape and color, and the gradient was really nice on it. I really enjoy painting that. So that's something I took away from that, being like, oh, experiment more with like thick textures with the pen, because that was fun. I hope you found that interesting. I'd be interested to know if you followed the light, medium, dark formats, or whether you did your own thing. We're gonna move on to the next round. All right, we're going to be moving on to our second trio of tracks. And no, I totally didn't just record this whilst I was editing, because I forgot to record this part. But we're going to be moving on to part two. We move on to the next three tracks, which are going to be some animated film scores. Should be a nice little variety of tracks. Let's go. Appropriate prop. next track. It's review time! Let's go through some of these animated film scores. So the first one was from Monsters, Inc. A very jazzy track. It felt like warm tone to me. Don't know about you. Maybe also like brass instruments. I was putting the gold with that. It's more gold here. And it definitely feels like expansive. Like the sound is growing, but also like jazz is quite complex. It has a lot of elements going on. It feels energetic and it feels bouncy, but also like quite explosive. I really like doing these like straights and curves and like quite bold shapes, so that's something that comes up a lot with what I create. But all right, on to the next one. So this was a track from Spirited Away, but anytime I listen to it, I definitely get like a nostalgic feeling. It's not just that I watched it when I was a kid. Yeah, it feels very magical to me. Also, there's a lot of like clouds in Ghibli stuff. Maybe the like seeing the cover of the album thing influenced me a bit as well, because I was already thinking about clouds. But as I was trying to make the curves, I was following the sound, and I quite like this like doubling up of line thing that I've been doing throughout my artwork recently, where it's almost like you make a mark and then you follow it up with either a different texture or a different type, or just emphasizing it. I have a lot of fun with that. I think it adds a lot of makes things more dynamic without like having to try and make it look 3D. It's just quite arty, I don't know. And then we got some sparkles in here because I like doing that, and you know, these are strong twinkly bits. And then the gold, so if you imagine this was kind of a swirl coming down, and like the gold would have filled out all the negative space here. If I had more time, obviously I'd color this all in gold, but that's what I quite like doing, is just start doing a negative space area, because I like to see how things are framed, especially when it's a light color. You can't always like tell when it's in light sketch form, but if you block out, I found, around it, even though if you know I'm not going to finish this, I don't know, I quite like that, and it feels more like quite fluid and like it's on a journey, and that song certainly feels like a journey. Next one. This one, admittedly, went a bit strange for me. Like, this is a song I'm very familiar with. So this is the track Rain from DreamWorks Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron, and Hans Zimmer did the soundtrack. It was like interwoven, interlocking, as if something was like playfully bouncing off each other or flowing life even. I don't know. The beats came in and it started to grow. I felt like it wasn't like smooth anymore, but I remember starting to do this and I was thinking, this looks a little bit like a heartbeat thing, which is kind of cool, but I think it's a little bit busy around here. Not that I'm trying to make anything in particular, but then I remember like as I was doing this, I was like, oh, I want to start again, because you know, these feelings come up of whatever I was going for, it's not quite coming out, and that feeling of guilt or shame of being like, oh, this is bad, and it's like, no, that's not what this is about. Remember, we're here because that's the opposite of what we're doing. Stick with it. And I worked into this a little bit more, because I was like, I'm actually just like enjoying, rather than thinking of the shape, when that was getting away from me. I was like, actually I'm enjoying like the pressure of this. I really like this thick, and I like coloring in with it to, you know, not like just like dropping in a color like you would digitally. It's actually like, I like coloring things in. And then I ended up making this look a little bit more neo-tribally, so it looks like there's like clashing textures, I guess. Interesting though.
Okay. Category games. That was fun. Just mental energy. Okay. Next. This looks like it could be a shrimp. Intergalactic prawn.
It's review time! So these were the game soundtracks. So the track you listened to was the title track from the game Night in the Woods. Like the, I don't know if you call it the cadence or the beats in it felt very strong. Also maybe this because I'm familiar with the game a bit, like it's very blocky, the styles of the characters are very graphic, so I felt I was almost feeling a bit of the game as I was going through it. But again, there's a little bit of my style stuff coming through of like, once I'd made those patterns, I was like, I don't know, it's like strong directional shapes. But I like the pattern of it. I would have liked if this pen wasn't running out. But again, it was really nice getting in there and being scribbly with colouring in. I really like turning a marker on its side when it started to run out a bit. Not on these bits though. These bits, I wanted those to be a lot bolder. And then it just wasn't working out because it was running out. But I like big sketchy things, you know, they feel really good. It feels really good to do. And then track 2 in the game sequence. Oh my god. This track is Megalovania from the game Undertale, which I still haven't finished yet. Obviously, I know what I'm in for, but at the same time, like hearing it and really tuning into it, I was like, I know this is one where I need multiple layers of going on. It needs to be like a chaotic harmony, which exactly, I think this conveys it really well. I just wish that I wish it was more continuous in some places, but it was so satisfying I was like, I'm probably gonna mess these pens up a bit, but hey, they've been hanging about for years, so this is the time for them to shine. And it was just so fun. Like, if you haven't tried this, it's just big silly fun, and you cover a lot of ground very quickly. And again, I'm going in with these kind of spiky and curvy shapes that I like putting patterns on. It was really fun. I really liked doing this one. And my whole body was moving, you know. Okay, and track 3 in the game sequence. This didn't come out anything like, I don't know what I thought was gonna come out, but this track feels like complex, very ambient, but growing, like it's a journey, an adventure, and it feels very grand. But I was it felt like very organic, but also digitally twinkly. So that was where I was going, feeling like these more organic-y shapes. Because at the start I was thinking bubbles. I think that's where I started to go with it. But then I was like, this feels cosmic. It's like a cosmic mess. And then this one that I drew towards the end, I was just like, that there is a shrimp, a little prawn. And it's really interesting that a cosmic prawn would come through, because today, of all days, I decided to get a Boots meal deal. And the options of crisps they had, I always like these lentil crisps. Never seen them prawn cocktail flavor. Not usually a flavor I go for, but today I was like, it's prawn flavour day, baby. The cosmic prawn has spoken. The cosmic prawn has come through yet again. What does that say about anything? Who knows? Maybe I should get that tattooed on me. Maybe it'll bring me infinite luck or something. Okay, well, we've arrived at the final set of tracks, and these ones, it's time for unwinding. It's time for letting go of like excessive energy. It's time to be chill, maybe be a bit nostalgic. I don't know. I have made myself comfy on the floor. I don't know, just changing up your position every so often is quite fun. Get to swing your legs like this. So I'd say get yourself cozy if you want to, and come join me on the floor. These last set of tracks aren't that long, so I hope you've enjoyed so far, and let's have a listen to these and see what we come out with. Okay, I hope you're nice and chilled out. I hope you enjoyed that. Those tracks are from an artist called One Heart, and I sort of discovered them through YouTube a few years ago. And I don't know, those tracks feel very atmospheric in a way that's, it's like you're remembering something, but also being sad that like you'll never be able to relive it, that it's gone, if you know what I mean. That last track, it just does something to my insides. I just feel like a sudden like longing for something that I can't remember. Love it. Obviously I've listened to it before, and you know, maybe the album cover being, all of the album covers being blue, that's like colored my judgment. I don't know, some waves flowing. It's very twinkly, so I almost get like wintry snow as well. And then I was like, this isn't the right color. And it started turning into like ocean waves, like rippling on the surface. Started hearing those twinkly noises coming in the second track, and I was like, okay, I want some contrast this like fluid motion with, again, these sharp shapes, but I was just like, I want these to be pink because it feels twinkly, it feels like fantasy, but like remembering your memories kind of is a fantasy because it's not the real thing happening right now. I don't know, I like adding graphic back in, and then I just thought, I want these to be outlined, and then I didn't have enough time to outline them, so I went away and listened to some again. I know, cheeky. And I went and outlined the rest of them because I just thought, I'm gonna finish, not finish this piece, but I want to outline all the stars. So I don't know how that felt for you, if it felt quite emotional for you. But this is one of the ones where I was thinking, I could take this into digital and like put a wash, because I was like, I'm not sure what color I want to put behind it. And I can't visualize it, so I could test it out digitally. But I like that one. I like the liminal, spacey dreaminess of it. And that brings us to the end of this workshop. So that has helped you like give yourself, like, if you hadn't like made time to just mess around, and give yourself permission to, again, a low stakes, nothing expected of me, because also like this is great. Like, you don't have to be an artist to do this. This is, everyone like can feel shapes and just do what's intuitive to them. You just gotta let things go. And I think it's also nice to, hopefully it was nice for you to, again, you could have done it digitally, but I think you should do it physically, and how that felt for you. Were there any moments where you felt frustrated? Because there were definitely ones where I was like, this doesn't feel right, and then you question like, well, what even is right? Is there a right? I don't think there is. But it's cool to tune into, well, what don't you like about that? Or like really breaking it down and being like, well, what do I like? What colors do I like? What shapes am I drawn to? Like, obviously, like a through line for me is all of these spiky shapes. I just like to draw them. It feels, and that kind of ties into the kind of clothing I wear. You can see, like, I like a lot of like bold shapes. So I'm starting to like learn through trying to be more mindful with this kind of arty stuff after feeling a bit lost with art for a while, of being like tuned into, what do I like? What shapes do I like? And letting that flow through me. And to me, I guess that's what being more intuitive is like letting things come out of you easily. So that was a first time running a workshop like that. I think it might be different in person, but yeah, if you've got any feedback, but yeah, if you want to share your work, I think it'd be really cool to see and share with people. And yeah, hopefully this is something you might try again or do a variation of, or just, give yourself permission to play around and feel the texture of pens and stuff like that. All of this was obviously human made, no AI in sight here, and that's how it should be. And I hope Cardiff Animation Festival has been amazing for you this year, because animation is bloody great, isn't it? So cool that people make stuff. Thank you so much for joining me and Kepler currently. Have a great night.